I think there are 5 key things that I'd like to share. I think one, come forward with ideas. Second, challenge conventional practices. Don't be afraid to, of course, challenge including leadership wisdom if it triggers you, right? So we need persistently evangelize their ideas, your ideas to gain support across boundaries and silos. Don't be afraid to work together across teams to build initial ideas and bring tested ideas to fruition. But lastly, accept failure as part of the innovation process.
Welcome and good day. Today we have an exceptional treat for you. It's season 13 of the Leader's Edge, episode 10. Today's topic is about empowering young leaders to drive innovation. Personally, I believe innovation exploded during the pandemic. It was something that most businesses maybe had in the background, maybe even foreground. But when the pandemic came, it became essential to an organization to be able to innovate. And we've brought with today I've invited Rapha Matias, who has spent a great deal of time in a very new environment, which is practically remote, talking and developing how to empower young leaders to drive innovation. And with that, I'd like to pass it over to Rapha to introduce herself.
Thank you so much, Paul. So everyone, welcome. My name is Rapha, and I'm the incumbent People and Culture Manager at Theos. It is a cybersecurity company and was built and founded during the pandemic. The company has been operating over 4 years now, and we've been growing. I'm managing a small team of around 43 people and less than 50 people in team by the end of 2023. Basically, building remote teams, building the best top 10% of security professionals, and that will be able to drive cyber resilience in Asia. So yeah, I spent most of my years in the HR field as a talent acquisition specialist, this HR business partner, a community manager for a co-working space named Spaces, and also was the former country lead for study abroad organization Asia Exchange. So there.
Actually, just that alone, you're speaking about fairly new companies, companies I don't think existed 20 years ago, if you want to say. They're just new,
Yes.
and they're definitely responding to the environment today. And innovation is something that I've noticed of late has become it's like a hot topic. Okay. Asian Institute of Management has a whole course for that. There's a new position called like the innovation lead. And it's becoming something that all companies feel like that they have to get into. And maybe we can start by focusing on some essential points that should be followed in order to have a successful innovation program, if not a successful innovation team. So, what points would you like to suggest, or what points do you think companies should keep in mind when they're putting in or installing an innovation team?
Suggesting transformation and it is very difficult for a familial Chinese traditional business industries operating. So that's one. And I remember I was asked, Rapha, you need to do something different. You need to challenge the status quo. Innovative thinking on ways to, ensure that we fill in the roles and we only have 10% or 90% attrition rate from them. So it was a difficult, scenario. So I think key points of or points to kind of ponder is innovative thinking cannot be taught. Is it innate? There are leaders that are they are very creative in the ways of thinking, that it's always outside the box, but not many are. And there are a lot of new leaders that I would like to consider myself as a young leader that is being if forced to think innovative ways to lead their teams or to build their teams, right? um and I'd like to believe that yes, it can be learned. There are ways on how to improve innovative way of thinking and skill set. And at least from my own experience, I believe to be a great innovator, you must be a great observer. So there's that. And when number two, it's when introducing innovative ways, innovative strategies, it means putting extra effort to move out of comfort zones and basically overcome procedural barriers and change that this is how things works over here. So
Okay.
when you're doing innovations for a young leader, there'll be resistance, number two. Um, and so that's I think that's the are the two things that I believe are that I can share, you
Okay.
know.
All right. So if I were to start an innovation campaign, maybe in my company, what are some points that I should always consider when doing this?
I think in strategies in driving innovation, one, we have to be clear to be able to understand what kind of services, innovative services, leaders can kickstart in the face of the market disruption. And basically innovative ways that will work for not only within the organization that you're part of, but also the clients that you will be serving. And two is basically knowing capacity for change. Workplace cultures are not always receptive to new ideas and also processes. So these have to be addressed and understand. The appetite for growth and the appetite for change. Lastly, building a strong innovation team is sometimes being overlooked. Sometimes the one that's driving innovation could be some coming from the upper management, right?
Right.
And in order to drive innovation, especially for young leaders, it has to be a mixture of different backgrounds of young individuals, experienced, non-experienced. So it's more of a collaborative strategy that ensures success of the innovative project that you'll be basically planning.
Calling.
Yeah, that will
Yes.
on it. Yes.
Okay. Now, usually, let's say I'm the owner because I look more like the owner. Okay. And I see a young guy in front of me. I look at him and said, "What does he or she know?" That's the first thing that's going to cross my mind. Okay. So maybe what are some points that you can talk about to help a person like me kind of overcome this kind of mentality? Okay. It can be anything from just simply being able to recognize the value you bring as a young person. Okay, or maybe a little more. Yeah, maybe we can work on these a little more. Can you tell us more about these?
Yes. So having to basically introduce yourself in basically providing potential solutions to driving innovation, right? To like business owners. Um, they like to make it simple in a sense that easily to understand, easy to facilitate, at least from my understanding of leaders that I was able to engage with. And by doing so, presenting it that you've underwent a thorough risk assessment processes, identify all potential risks that they will be encountering, and be able to address these potential risks to develop strategies to mitigate them. And I think that's very important. That's I think that the common questions of business owners, right? To which extent the risk are we engaging with when towards these innovative projects, and developing a contingency plan to basically pivot the approach, and be able to find uh, other streamlines for recovery should the risk happen. I think it's very important. And how well it was tested, the plan is being tested and controlled, right?
Right.
Business owners always want to have control over things that, including risk,
Of course.
they can manage.
Yes.
And not only like exposing risk and doing new ways, but also providing a detailed revenue generating plan that we are not only exposing ourselves towards risk that we're not going to gain anything from, the finding values out of it. I think be able to break down revenue sources to, and sharing this with business leaders are very important. And demonstrating a clear path of profitability, instill confidence to the owners to support the project that is innovative. And
Okay, all right.
yeah,
That,
and I think that are the, I think, which I can share, and that are, I think, of value.
how about for me? Okay, I'm the business owner, as you said. So sometimes we're a little closed-minded. When I look at the young guy, I say, "What does he know?" Even about the risks, I look at her. They have no idea what the risks are, or all of them at least, or they might miss one, which is again a common issue on my end. Okay, how about me? What suggestions do you have for me to maybe be able to, either work with the young person or maybe support him? What can I do as the owner?
As the owner, once you get the buy-in, I think it's, if I'm the lead or a project owner of new innovative ways that we are implementing in the organization, it's important that I think that the owner itself is one driving the conversation across. It gives more confidence to onboard people, and to also at least control sort of resistance, right?
Okay.
I think it's very important that when the buy-in of the owner is there, support can be shared in confidence to, I think, having the driving the said project itself by the management. It's very important. I think from my point of view, it's very important. It's a two-way down the road kind of conversations.
Right, right. And usually the word that comes to mind for me is I have to be your champion, not just buy in. Okay.
Yes.
Because I'm sure you've had a situation where the owner, might just throw money at the problem and hope it disappears. Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
So maybe he's there to support you financially, but he's not championing your project. Okay.
Yes.
So maybe that's one. And with the last statement you said about fostering that environment, we talk a lot today about psychological safety and all of that. Okay, how important does that come in when it comes to the support of the project manager like you?
Yeah. So I think the psychological safety is sometimes overlooked also in workplaces that are that where they like to find new ways on how to do things, but forget that how comfortable people are
Mhm.
to to join in the ship, right? Or to join in the
Right.
ship to take it off. Um, I think communication is the key. How you want to position um the projects, in terms of purpose, sharing the said purpose. Are you also sharing the same? Are the people in the group or in the organization
Mhm.
also share the same values, hope for the same thing? I think that's one. How easy, what is the impact for them if they,
Mhm.
once they went through these changes,
Mhm.
and how can they cope up? Like, to what extent is the support are they giving them to basically have the learning curve for
Right.
these ways, in terms of
Mhm.
processes. So I think that's important. And but basically having that open conversation, frequent feedback, creating platforms for idea sharing and discussion, and not only like having that forum, understanding their needs and their support that they're needed, when not just basically implementing set of rules and procedures that they are not
Okay.
comfortable to follow, right?
All right.
It needs to be presented in a constructive and collaborative way.
Okay. Uh, Maybe you can work on that just a little bit. Can you give us some examples of when you say collaborative and open way? How does that work? Give me some examples of way.
I think for me, one, before I actually engage to new projects,
Right.
I try to understand the audience, or the audience that'll be affected, or who's involved, right? And
The
who is it
stakeholders, you
for?
would
The
say.
stakeholders,
Yes.
right? So by doing so, even before presenting the entire process, would like I'd like to share that I the purpose has to be set the tone, and
Of course.
how comfortable are they doing so. Do I need for to understand their difficulties and challenges if
Mhm.
we do this? And so these constraints are identified before it actually happens when you present the final strategy.
Right.
Uh,
Right.
it's not just basically getting their feedbacks once it's done.
Right.
That's a different and then that's a different thing, because it's either you have to go back to basics, or like
Mhm.
to change the plan again because it doesn't work for many. There's a lot of resistance, right? There's not such an impact, so it's like it lose its purpose.
Uh-huh.
So um it's encouraging everyone, the stakeholders, to take ownership, and what role are they playing to
Okay.
this innovative project or new project.
Okay.
Having these platforms or initiative that facilitates collaboration across departments um, basically provide sense of comfort in addressing or whenever you have new ways or new approaches to introduce.
That's an excellent point. And, as an older guy, sometimes I confuse obedience with collaboration. I'll accuse you of not collaborating when in reality you're not obeying. Okay. Or something like that. That could definitely happen. But I'll just give you a perfect example. This is even pre-pandemic. I was working with a very large, one of the large, how would you say, they're one of the large family-owned companies here. And their L&D approached me and said, Paul, we need your help. And I go, how can I help you? I said, we have a problem. Our departments aren't running together. Okay. And their setup was they had geographical, they had China, they had rest of Asia, Southeast Asia, and then of course they had the functional, they had the HR, the finance, that kind of thing. And they just weren't running together. You know what I told them? I said, look, just go sit in a meeting and observe and tell me what's rewarded and what's punished. Okay. So oftentimes, even just the way we encourage cross-functional collaboration sometimes has to do with the culture of the organization itself, where they don't really reward collaboration. They don't reward, let's say, team. What I mean by team, divisional efforts together. They say, okay, you're the best division of the year, and they'll give you a good prize, kind of thing. Okay, and that was even happening before the pandemic. Now with the pandemic, it becomes even more acute, the need to be able to collaborate across divisions and departments. What else? So what else in the playbook? Okay, that would be step maybe number three. Well, how about are there any more?
I'd like to share a few more things around the how we can empower to drive innovations, young leaders these days. And I think the next is providing decision making authority, and granting decision making authority to young leaders empowers them to take ownership of their ideas and initiatives. And I like to believe that business owners like yourself agrees the same thing, as empowerment fosters sense of accountability, autonomy, and motivation that drives innovation forward.
Oh, definitely. In fact, the word autonomy is one of the motivators, one of the biggest motivators for people in a company. They have autonomy. They can make decisions on their own. And you also mentioned another key word, accountability, which is where I think the biggest challenge is. When I say this, because when I work with groups and I talk about people going into the managerial or supervisory position, I joke with them about accountability. I said, look, you know, if my daughter's 16 years old, for example, and she crashes my car into the tree, I go, who's going to pay for it? Most of them say the daughter will. I said, no, the daughter is responsible, but I'm going to pay for it. I'm accountable. Okay, now sometimes, and maybe you can discuss this in terms of helping the leader, the young leader who's coming in to understand, grasp the importance of accountability, because they're playing with somebody else's money. Okay, it's not theirs. Okay, all right. So because it does become a challenge. Maybe you can give some tips to the leaders, to the young leaders who are coming in, how to work with this.
Yeah, so whenever you're driving innovation and basically establishing new idea, accountability sometimes is very tricky. But for young leaders to share their ideas and receiving feedback and collaborate with colleagues, it's also important to provide guidance and support to nurture the development of ideas and to take act whenever they take action. This comes whenever they are challenged, and so when they know, I think, which serves its purpose, then they understand to which extent they take responsibility from.
Okay, excellent. That's a very powerful answer, actually. Okay, because ultimately, the young leader, knowing that he's not, let's say, gambling his money, uh, he also needs to be given the authority to be able to show that he really wants to work for this. Okay, I'm not. It's just a good analogy, but I don't want to make it like a real situation. If you're coming to me with an innovative idea, you have to be able to demonstrate to me that you can fall on your sword for me. I'm not going to ask you to literally die, but I need to see your effort. Again, I'm giving you all this. Okay, you can decide it, but I need to see the effort. Okay. All right. Thank you. That was a good answer. How about anything else? Maybe about, let's say, like, for example, me. Again, I'm old. I might be very stuck with my own ways. Okay. How about that? Can you speak to that?
Yeah, I think experimenting in a growth mindset type of way encourage young leaders to embrace continuous learning. I think it emphasized the value of the growth mindset where they view failures as a learning opportunity rather than consequences, rather than focusing on the consequences of it. Encourage resilience and adaptability in the face of challenges. And I think along with it, with the growth mindset, is basically whenever there's innovative ideas, we are young leaders are faced with challenging the status quo.
Right.
And with this, young leaders, tend to question existing process, systems, assumptions within the organization. Hence, the need for open-mindedness and critical thinking and willingness to disrupt established norms in creating positive change.
One suggestion I have, especially for the young leaders, is look, if you make a mistake and it's big, the bosses will get angry. I can't tell you they won't. They will. However, what I will also tell you is chances are your boss has made more mistakes than you. Okay. So enjoy it. It's really part of the whole process. Okay. Uh, is there anything else that maybe that you want to add to our little playbook that we're developing here?
I think last is leading by examples.
Okay.
Have senior leaders model the behavior they want to see in the young leaders. Showcase openness to change and innovative thinking. It encourages and enables them. And it creates an environment that welcomes the contributions of the young leaders, setting the tone for innovation throughout the organization. So I think
Okay.
I think that would be um the last piece I'd like to share for
Right. Right.
the playbook.
Right. Now the playbook that we've come up with, of course, recognize the value of us. This is from the point of view of me as the owner of the company, if you want to say. Then fostering a psychologically safe environment, one where you can take risks, when there are no negative, how do you call, retributions or anything, nothing nasty. Then, of course, learning how to work together with all the departments, because usually for innovation, it's not just one department, it'll impact all of them some way or another. Then, of course, allowing me to make some decision making authority, have some decision making authority and accountability. Then we talk about you being able to challenge me. Okay, talk to me and tell me, hey, challenge the status quo if you want to say. Then, of course, the last one, and this is common for all leadership, it's all behavioral. It's about me and how I behave. Now, maybe just to wrap it up real quick, maybe you can give some tips to the young leader as to what they can do to make sure that they're heard and that their importance and significance is understood.
I think there are 5 key things that I'd like to share. I think 1, come forward with ideas. Second, challenge conventional practices. Don't be afraid to, of course, challenge including leadership wisdom if it and if it triggers you, right? So I think persistently evangelize their ideas, your ideas to gain support across boundaries and silos. Don't be afraid to work together across teams to build initial ideas and bring tested ideas to fruition. But lastly, accept failure as part of the innovation process.
Okay, very important, because you might feel discouraged after the first attempt. Okay. Or, maybe it's the third attempt already and you're still failing and you start saying, oh gosh, it's always a failure. Maybe they're not listening to me. They don't want to listen to me. But sometimes it's a matter of you adjusting your approach or making it look a little clearer to the leaders so they can actually back you on this. Okay, but Rafa, thank you so much for making time for this. I truly enjoyed the insights that you provided. And before we go, is there anything that maybe you'd like to share with our audience? Maybe there's an event that you'll be hosting or actually doing where you can learn more about driving innovation.
Well, for those who are watching us, you can basically catch us for the next event, but it would be in Malaysia for
Oh,
for a SOC, a security event in Malaysia in July 24 to 28. Other than that, you can follow our company, Theos on LinkedIn or my profile on LinkedIn, Rapha Matias, and probably share new innovative ideas that you have bring forward to your organization in the front of people and culture, how you build teams, how you engage remote teams, how you build high performing teams in this day and age of AI and remote work setup. Definitely would like to exchange and exchange ideas and brainstorm with you. So there.
To our audience, I sincerely hope that you are taking down notes and writing some of your new learnings or, those light bulb aha moments. If you have any, please share them in the comments and please write them there. And for our next episode, we will have Marge de la Fuente, who will be talking about overcoming burnout, which is extremely important. And of course, if you enjoyed this session, please do not forget to click the like and subscribe. That'll definitely help all of us. And as always, learning is a never ending journey with limitless vistas.